Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope you are well and get the results with your team. Manager Matt is always here to try to cut through the bull and get to the actual things that work when it comes to leadership and management. And today is no different. We're going to be talking about something every company claims to have, but very few really understand or truly understand. And this is the idea of culture. Not the posters on the wall, not the slogans in the boardroom, but the real culture. The one thing that shows up when no one's watching, when the CCTVs are off and the so-called senior team have left. What do people actually get up to? What does a culture look like? And before we start that, I'd love you to subscribe to the show, share it wherever you can and pass it on, because I love more people to listen to the show and give us those critical likes that people seem to need these days. But what is culture? Let's start at the beginning. What is culture? What is it really about? Well, culture is behaviour. It's not attitude, it's behaviour. It's what people do when they're not being watched. It's the decisions they make when they're under pressure. It's how they act when things go wrong. That is true culture. Culture is built through repeating day to day, every day, night, weekend. It's built on the things that you will see in the business, around the business, and how the people react in that business. It's built on things like training. It's built on direction. It's built on leadership. It's built on the standards that you do. And over time, these things become automatic, almost like the DNA. No thinking, no hesitation, it's just action. That's what you get when you get a culture in the right direction, get the right behaviours happening without it being forced or watched. And culture is a DNA of the business. Think of the culture as the thing that makes it tick. It runs through everything. The DNA runs through everything that business is doing. It's how your teams treat customers. It's how problems are solved. It's how standards are followed or not. It's how people treat each other. When the DNA is strong, the business is strong. When it's weak or missing, you see the cracks. You see increased errors. You see customers getting let down. You see frustration building. Blame creeps in. And eventually, failure follows failures. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that the consequences is results will fail, and results will fail means your business will fail. So without a consistent culture, you'll have no business that really works. So let's break it down. What does culture really look like? Culture doesn't collapse overnight. It erodes. It erodes when people change, when people allow standards to slip. And it usually breaks in predictable ways. You get inconsistency in your leadership. You know what I mean. One day it matters, the next day it doesn't. Standards shift depending on the mood or pressure or who's watching. They say one thing and do something else. Leaders are not being consistent. That's what happens. This is when you get that inconsistent leadership, and it will erode and break your culture. You tolerate poor behaviours. A fast way to destroy a culture: allow things you said you won't do. Allow things to slip. Allow things, that'll creep in. People watch and see you not doing the right things. You tolerate that poor behaviour. That erodes your culture. You get mixed messages. We've heard this before, haven't you? Safety matters, but hit the target matters even more. Quality is key, but let's just get it out the door. You can't run two cultures at once. One will win over the other, and it's usually, let's not be surprised here, it's usually the wrong culture. Another thing that erodes some culture is a lack of standards. If good looks like a certain way, it needs to be there all the time. If good looks like different things to different people, well, what happens? You don't have that culture. You can have chaos because one shift will do it one way, one person will do it another way, departments do it the other way. And that creates this chaotic, non-functioning, poor culture. No follow-ups. Training without reinforcement is just a nice conversation. You must have a backbone that follows up. If no one is checking and no one is watching, then is it really happening? Does culture really happen, or is it just going to drift? That's what we mean when we say culture gets eroded. Now, what makes culture strong? A strong culture is built on this clarity and consistency, this clear standards we've set, the clear expectations of leaderships and managers to do, clear consistency in what they are doing, and clear consequences when things go wrong. And most importantly, leaders who live it, not just talk about it, not just delegate it, but actually live it every day, every hour of the day. They're the ones that make the culture strong. They're the ones that don't walk past when things are wrong. They're the ones that don't turn a blind eye because it might be an awkward conversation. Strong leaders build strong culture. That's the difference. Now, how do you change the culture? If you're sitting listening to this and thinking, my culture is not good, my culture is not right, how do I change it? Well, let's get it straight. Because this is where most business really struggle. It's how you change your culture. Because it's very easy to criticise a business and say your culture's wrong. Easy to say that. Easy to come in and say, the culture's wrong. Because it's hard to pin it down, isn't it? It's hard to put it in a nutshell. But culture change doesn't start on the shop floor. It's led by them. It's also their responsibilities, but it starts at the top. It does really start at the top. Leaders set the cultural standards. If you don't believe me, look at any good business. It's the CEO who are driving it. It's the top ones. You need to define what good looks like. Then your team can follow it. And trust me, you might not like what they come up with sometimes. You might not like the way that people want to drive it, but if you show them what good is and they drive that business forward, then you'll have it. You've got to be specific. You've got to be clear, and you've got to be non-negotiable. You are setting it. You leaders, you are setting it. You've got to get your team to understand that you, as their leader, are setting the culture, but you're expecting those guys to follow it. And that leads us into another point. Leaders accept the culture's standards every day. They accept that the culture is like that. What does that mean? Accept the culture. Like I said, people don't walk past things. This is where we are credible, and we need to build credibility or lose it. If leaders cut corners, everyone else will see that. If leaders ignore issues, everyone else will ignore issues. You don't get a different standard every day. You get the same standard. You are the standard you set. So leaders accept the cultural standards every day. And leaders enforce those cultural standards. This is the hard part. This is the bit, there's a bit where you might have to be a little bit more than just the nice guy, but it's the hard yards you need to do. It's easy to talk about culture when things are going well. Of course it is. Isn't that the same in anything? When things are going well and your results are going well, it's easy to do it. It's hard when you need to enforce it. It's uncomfortable, but you need to push through. But this is the truth. If you don't enforce the standards, you don't have the standards. How are you going to do it? You can't just have people thinking that this is the standard and we'll just get through it. Leaders need to enforce that cultural standard, and that means showing up and showing people how to set the standards, but also enforcing the standards when they are not hit. And a leader can change the cultural standards when they are needed to change. Culture isn't static. Culture moves, businesses evolve, markets change, expectations are always on the rise. Think of the time when you had a car. Maybe you're young enough not to have the cars, but some cars used to have windows that didn't have electric winders on them. And that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? What am I talking about electric winders and that for? Because electric windows were seen as a premier, a high-end car had electric windows. Everyone else had to use the hand to wind it down. Now, electric windows are standard on everything, right the way from the base. The standards have lifted. Remote controls for your television. Who'd buy a television now that didn't have a remote control to turn it over? Before, you had to stand up and go and change the channel. Now, you won't dream of having a telly without a remote control that changed the channels, did the volume. This is what I mean. The standards are moving up all the time. The bar is getting raised. So you've got to expect that to raise from customers. They expect you to push it. So your culture can't say the same. Leaders need to adjust the culture without losing the core beliefs. That means you raise the bar every day. You're raising the bar. You update behaviours. You retrain your team. And you realign the expectations. But never lower the standards to make your life easier. Never walk away from the difficult conversation. Because the standards and the culture will drive your business forward. So let's have a look at the final thoughts. Culture isn't built in a workshop. It ain't built in a forum. It's not built in a conference that you went to. It's built in the moments when somebody says something, when something goes wrong, when no one is watching, it still happens. When a leader has to choose between it easy and the right call. When it means sometimes not sending something out because it's not right. That's where culture lives. So if you're serious about improving your business, don't start with your systems, don't start with your process, start with the behaviours. Because in the end, culture isn't what you say, it's what you expect, it's what you accept, and it's what you enforce. And that's where you can make a difference. Every day with your people, enforce the culture you want. Set the culture you expect. Be the culture. Well, thank you so much for listening to Manager Matt. If you've got any thoughts on the show or any feedback, I'd love to hear them. You can put them in the comments wherever you're listening to this, or you can get me at managermatt@gmail.com. I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. I'd love to hear where you think culture sits in your business and how you can increase it and how you can affect it. But that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.